The fluorescent lights of the lawyer's office buzzed like angry wasps, drilling into my skull with each passing second. I sat in the stiff leather chair, my fingers twisted together so tightly that my knuckles had gone white, bloodless. The air conditioning blasted cold air that smelled of expensive cologne and old paper, making goosebumps rise along my arms. I hadn't been able to afford a proper coat in months, not since Marcus had drained our joint account. "Just sign here, Emily," Marcus said, his voice dripping with false sweetness as he slid another document across the mahogany table. His hand, the same hand that had once held mine during our wedding vows, now trembled slightly as he pointed to the signature line. "It's just a formality. We agreed to split everything 50-50, remember?" I wanted to believe him. God, how desperately I wanted to believe that the man I'd spent 7 years loving still had a shred of decency left. But the way his eyes darted to the woman sitting beside him, her, with her designer handbag and perfectly manicured nails, told me everything I needed to know. Sophia, his paralegal, his lover. The reason our marriage had crumbled like ash. "Emily's been through so much," Sophia cooed, reaching across to touch my hand with fingers that felt like ice. "We just want to make this easy for you. The apartment, the car, the savings. We'll handle all the complicated parts. You won't have to worry about anything." The scent of her perfume, something floral and expensive, made my stomach turn. I pulled my hand away, feeling the rough texture of my own chapped skin against the smooth wood of the table. When had I stopped taking care of myself? When had I become this hollow, exhausted shell of a person? "I don't understand all these legal terms," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the hum of the air conditioning. My eyes scanned the documents, but the words blurred together. Transferal of assets, relinquishment of claims, waiver of spousal support. Maybe I should have my own lawyer look at this. "Emily." Marcus leaned forward, and I caught a whiff of his aftershave, the same one I'd given him last Christmas. The memory stabbed through me like a knife. "We can't afford 2 lawyers. The fees alone would eat up everything we have. Just trust me on this. Haven't I always taken care of the finances?" Yes. He had. And that was the problem. I'd been so focused on my work at the hospital, on double shifts and overnight rotations, trying to keep us afloat while he figured things out with his career. I'd trusted him with everything, our money, our future, our life together. And now I sat here, exhausted and alone, while he and his mistress looked at me with barely concealed impatience. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, according to the nameplate on his desk, cleared his throat. He was Marcus's lawyer, chosen by Marcus, paid by Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Ms. Chen, if you just sign on pages 12, 15, and 23, we can finalize everything today, unless you have specific questions." I had 1,000 questions, but my mind felt like it was wrapped in cotton, thick and suffocating. I hadn't slept in 3 days. The hospital had cut my hours. Budget constraints, they'd said. And I'd been living on coffee and anxiety. My hands shook as I reached for the pen. "That's it," Marcus encouraged, his voice warm and familiar in a way that made my chest ache. "Just 3 signatures and this nightmare is over. We can both move on." Move on. As if it were that simple, as if 7 years could be erased with 3 strokes of a pen. I pressed the ballpoint against the first signature line, feeling the slight resistance of the thick paper. The sound of the pen scratching seemed impossibly loud in the quiet office. My hand moved almost mechanically. Emily Chen, Emily Chen, Emily. The door burst open. The sound was like a gunshot in the sterile quiet. I jerked back, the pen skittering across the page, leaving a jagged line of ink. My heart slammed against my ribs as I looked up. 3 men entered the office. No, 3 men filled the office, their presence so overwhelming that the spacious room suddenly felt claustrophobic. The 2 in front wore identical black suits, their expressions carved from stone, their eyes constantly scanning, assessing. But it was the man between them who made the air leave my lungs. He was young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead and eyes so intensely blue they looked almost unnatural under the harsh fluorescent lights. His suit probably cost more than my car. No, more than 3 of my cars. The fabric moved like water over his broad shoulders as he walked, each step measured and deliberate. He smelled of sandalwood and something darker, something dangerous that I couldn't name. Power. He smelled of power. Mr. Patterson. His voice was quiet, almost gentle, but it sliced through the room like a blade. I need to borrow your office, now. The lawyer shot to his feet so fast his chair rolled backward and hit the wall. Mr. Caruso, of course, we were just finishing. You're finished. Those blue eyes swept across the room, touching Marcus, Sophia, me. When his gaze landed on me, I felt it like a physical touch, raising every hair on my body. Everyone out, except her. He pointed at me. My mouth went dry. Marcus stood up, puffing out his chest in a pathetic display of masculine bravado. Now wait just a minute. We're in the middle of important legal proceedings. You can't just... One of the men in black suits took a single step forward. That was all. Just one step. But Marcus stumbled backward, his face draining of color, his hand reaching blindly for Sophia's arm. I believe Mr. Caruso said everyone out, the bodyguard said flatly. Mr. Patterson was already gathering his papers with shaking hands, stuffing them into his briefcase without any semblance of order. Sophia grabbed her designer bag, her previous confidence evaporating. She practically ran for the door. Marcus hesitated, looking at me with something that might have been concern if I didn't know him better. It was probably just fear that I'd mess up whatever game he was playing. Emily, don't sign anything else. Leave. The man, Mr. Caruso, didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The single word carried the weight of absolute authority, of violence barely restrained. Marcus left. The door clicked shut behind them with a sound like a cell closing. I was alone with 3 strangers, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The 2 bodyguards positioned themselves on either side of the door, silent and watchful as statues. Mr. Caruso walked to the table where I sat frozen, pulled out Marcus's abandoned chair, and settled into it with the casual grace of a predator. Up close, I could see the faint scar along his jawline, the way his expensive watch caught the light, the perfect knot of his silk tie. Everything about him screamed danger wrapped in beautiful packaging. Ms. Chen. He said my name like he'd known me for years, like he had the right to speak it at all. His fingers, long, elegant, with a heavy silver ring on his right hand, reached for the documents I'd almost signed. Do you know what these papers actually say? I opened my mouth, closed it, shook my head. He leaned back in the chair, those unsettling blue eyes never leaving my face. They say that you're signing over full ownership of your apartment to Marcus Chen. They say you're waiving all rights to your joint savings account, currently containing $47,000. They say you're transferring ownership of your vehicle, releasing all claims to his pension, and agreeing to receive 0 spousal support or alimony. In exchange, you get absolutely nothing. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, feeling the wood grain pressing into my palms. That's not... He said 50-50. He lied. Mr. Caruso's voice was matter-of-fact, almost kind. Your husband has been systematically moving assets into his mistress's name for the past 8 months. The apartment already has her name on the deed, forged your signature 6 months ago. The savings account? He withdrew $35,000 last week. By the time these papers are filed, you'll have given him legal permission to steal everything, and you'll have no recourse. Nausea rolled through me in waves. How do you know this? He smiled, and it was beautiful and terrifying all at once, because Marcus Chen owes a substantial debt to someone I know. When my associate went to collect, your husband offered him a deal. Wait until the divorce is finalized, and he could pay everything from his assets that are actually yours. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, and I could taste bile at the back of my throat. Everything. 7 years of my life. Every double shift. Every sacrifice. Gone. Why? I swallowed hard, forcing the words out. Why are you telling me this? Mr. Caruso stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. He looked down at me, and for just a moment something flickered in those cold blue eyes, something almost like recognition, like he saw past the exhausted, broken woman sitting before him. Because, Ms. Chen, your husband made a critical mistake. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card, placing it on the table in front of me with 2 fingers. The cardstock was heavy, expensive, with embossed lettering. He stole from someone under my protection, someone whose father was a very dear friend of mine, someone who died 6 months ago in a car accident that was no accident at all. My blood turned to ice. Your father was David Chen, he continued, his voice soft and deadly. A good man who ran a small import business in Chinatown. A man who refused to pay protection money to the Zhao family. A man who died when his brakes mysteriously failed on the highway. Tears burned in my eyes. I'd known. Deep down, I'd known it wasn't an accident. But everyone, the police, the insurance company, even Marcus, had told me I was being paranoid, that my grief was making me see conspiracies where there were none. Marcus knew, I whispered. Marcus helped arrange it. Mr. Caruso's hand, still resting on the table, clenched into a fist. Your father's business was worth more dead than alive. Insurance payout, property sale, inventory liquidation. Your husband and the Zhao family split everything while you mourned. The world shattered. Every piece of my reality, every foundation I'd built my life on, crumbled into dust. I couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at this beautiful, dangerous stranger who had just torn my entire world apart and somehow made me feel like he'd saved me. So here's what's going to happen, Emily. He leaned down, his face level with mine, close enough that I could see flecks of silver in those impossible blue eyes. You're not going to sign those papers. You're going to walk out of this office, and you're going to come with me. Why would I? Because your husband has already sold you, just like he sold your father. His voice was barely a whisper now, intimate and terrifying. The Zhao family knows you're the sole beneficiary of your father's life insurance. $500,000 that Marcus can't touch because it's in your name alone. They've decided you're more valuable as a hostage than a widow. Marcus gets his assets, they get their leverage. Everyone wins. Except me, I breathed. Except you. He straightened, offering me his hand. Unless you take my protection, unless you let me finish what your father and I started before he died. I stared at his outstretched hand. Manicured nails, that heavy silver ring, power and violence and salvation all wrapped together. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to refuse, to call the police. But what would I tell them? That my husband had tried to steal from me? That I'd almost signed it all away willingly? That the man who'd just saved me was probably more dangerous than anyone Marcus could ever dream of being? Who are you? I whispered. His smile was sharp as broken glass. Someone who keeps his promises. Your father asked me to protect you if anything happened to him. I'm 6 months late, but I don't intend to fail him twice. The fluorescent lights buzzed, the air conditioning hummed. Outside the office, I could hear muffled voices. Marcus probably arguing with the receptionist, trying to get back in. I looked at Mr. Caruso's extended hand. I looked at the documents that would have left me with nothing. I looked at the future Marcus and Sophia and the Zhao family had planned for me. A future that ended with me as collateral, or worse. Then I stood up on shaking legs, my hand reaching out almost of its own accord, and placed my palm against his. His fingers closed around mine, warm, strong, absolutely certain. Good girl, he murmured. And the approval in his voice sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the realization that I had just traded one cage for another. Only this time, I'd walked in with my eyes open. The elevator descended in silence, broken only by the mechanical whir of cables and gears. I stood pressed against the cold metal wall, acutely aware of Mr. Caruso's presence beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, far enough that we weren't touching. The 2 bodyguards flanked us like silent sentinels, their eyes fixed on the descending floor numbers. My hand still tingled where he'd held it. I rubbed my palm against my jeans, trying to erase the sensation, but it lingered like a brand. Where are we going? My voice sounded small in the confined space, barely above a whisper. Somewhere safe. He didn't look at me, his attention fixed on his phone screen. His thumbs moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, sending messages to people I couldn't see. Your apartment isn't an option. Marcus has keys. The Zhao family has been watching it for 3 weeks. Ice flooded my veins. They've been watching me? Surveillance van, 2 buildings down. Black Honda. They've logged every time you leave for work, every time you come home. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. They know your schedule better than you do. The elevator lurched slightly as it reached the ground floor, and I grabbed the handrail to steady myself. My legs felt like water, threatening to give out beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about my life was dissolving, revealing something darker and more terrifying underneath. The doors slid open onto the parking garage, a cavernous space of concrete pillars and fluorescent strips that cast everything in sickly yellow light. The air smelled of motor oil and exhaust fumes. Mr. Caruso's hand touched the small of my back, gentle but firm, guiding me forward. The contact sent electricity racing up my spine. This way. A black SUV waited in the shadows, its windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. The vehicle was massive, gleaming, expensive, the kind of car that screamed money and power. One of the bodyguards moved ahead, opening the rear door while the other scanned the garage with eyes that missed nothing. "Get in," Mr. Caruso said softly. I hesitated at the threshold, my hand gripping the door frame. This was it, the point of no return. Once I got into this car, I was accepting whatever came next. I was trusting a man I didn't know, a man who moved through the world with violence trailing in his wake like a shadow. Emily. His voice was closer now, his breath warm against my ear. They're already moving. Marcus called them the moment we left that office. You have maybe 30 minutes before they reach your apartment, and if you're there... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I climbed into the SUV. The interior smelled of leather and that same sandalwood scent that clung to Mr. Caruso's skin. The seats were butter soft, the kind of luxury I'd only ever seen in magazines. He slid in beside me, close enough that our thighs almost touched, and the door closed with a solid final thunk. The engine purred to life, a sound of restrained power, and we pulled out of the garage into the fading afternoon light. I watched the city slide past the tinted windows, familiar streets suddenly looking alien and threatening. Every person on the sidewalk could be watching. Every car could be following. My fingers twisted together in my lap, my breath coming too fast, too shallow. Breathe, Mr. Caruso commanded, his hand suddenly covering both of mine. His palm was warm, his grip firm and steadying. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You're safe here. Safe, I repeated, the word tasting like ash. I don't even know who you are. I don't know what you want from me. My name is Dominic Caruso. His thumb traced a slow circle over my knuckles, the gesture oddly soothing despite its intimacy. I run certain business operations in the city, import, export, protection services. Your father and I had an arrangement. He provided legitimate shipping channels. I ensured his business stayed untouched by the less savory elements of Chinatown. You're a criminal. It wasn't a question. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'm a businessman who operates outside conventional legal frameworks. There's a difference. Not to me. Then you're naive. The bluntness of his words stung, but his tone remained gentle. Your father understood how the world really works. He knew that sometimes the police can't, or won't, protect the people who need it most. He knew that real power doesn't come from badges or courtrooms. I pulled my hands away from his, crossing my arms over my chest. The loss of his touch left me feeling strangely cold. And you expect me to just accept that? To accept you? I expect you to be smart enough to recognize when you're drowning and someone's thrown you a life preserver. He shifted in his seat, turning to face me fully. In the dim interior of the car, his eyes looked almost black. You have no money, no home, no one you can trust. Marcus will paint you as unstable, grieving, paranoid. The police won't believe you about your father. They've already closed that case. The Zhao family will make you disappear, and no one will even notice you're gone. Each word was a hammer blow, shattering what little composure I had left. Tears burned hot trails down my cheeks, and I turned away, pressing my forehead against the cool glass of the window. I didn't want him to see me cry. Didn't want to give him that power over me. but his hand found my shoulder, turning me back with inexorable gentleness. His thumb caught a tear as it fell, wiping it away with a tenderness that didn't match the hardness in his eyes. Or, he continued, his voice dropping to barely more than a murmur, you let me handle this. You trust me to protect you the way I should have protected your father. You give me permission to do what needs to be done. What does that mean? I asked, though part of me already knew. Part of me didn't want to hear it confirmed. It means Marcus pays for what he's done. It means the Zhao family learns what happens when they target someone under my protection. It means you get justice, real justice, not the sanitized version they sell in courtrooms. The car turned onto a tree-lined street I didn't recognize, slowing as we approached a tall iron gate. Beyond it, I could see a sprawling estate, the kind of property that belonged in movies. Not real life. Manicured lawns, a circular driveway with a fountain at its center, a house that was more mansion than home. Where is this? One of my properties. The gate swung open as we approached, some invisible signal granting us passage. No one knows about it except my most trusted people. You'll be safe here while we make arrangements. The SUV glided to a stop in front of the main entrance, massive double doors of dark wood and frosted glass. Another bodyguard appeared from somewhere, opening my door before I could even reach for the handle. The evening air was cool against my tear-stained face, carrying the scent of jasmine and freshly cut grass. Dominic was beside me in an instant, his hand once again finding the small of my back. That touch was becoming familiar, almost comfortable, and that terrified me more than anything else. Come, he said, guiding me up the stone steps. You need food, rest, clothes that aren't. He gestured vaguely at my worn jeans and faded hospital scrubs. We'll talk more in the morning when you're thinking clearly. The interior of the house stole my breath. Marble floors reflected the light from a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. A sweeping staircase curved upward, its banister gleaming. Everything was pristine, perfect, coldly beautiful. A woman appeared from a side hallway, middle-aged, kind-faced, wearing a simple black dress. Mr. Caruso, she said with a slight accent I couldn't place. The room is prepared. Thank you, Rosa. He turned to me, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. Rosa manages the household. Anything you need, ask her. She's trustworthy. Rosa smiled at me, warm and genuine. You look exhausted. Let's get you settled. I glanced back at Dominic, suddenly unwilling to leave his presence despite everything. He was dangerous, yes, maybe more dangerous than Marcus or the Zhao family combined, but he was also the only solid thing in a world that had turned to quicksand beneath my feet. Go, he said gently, reading something in my expression. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. Rosa led me up the staircase, her hand light on my elbow as if she sensed how close I was to collapse. We walked down a hallway lined with closed doors, finally stopping at one near the end. She pushed it open, revealing a bedroom that made my studio apartment look like a closet. The bed was enormous, dressed in white linens that looked impossibly soft. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens lit by subtle landscape lighting. A door stood ajar, revealing a bathroom of gleaming marble and gold fixtures. There are clothes in the closet, Rosa said, moving to pull the curtains closed. They should fit. Mr. Caruso is very particular about details. Bathroom is stocked with everything you need. I'll bring dinner up in an hour. I'm not hungry, I whispered. She turned, studying me with eyes that had probably seen too much, knew too much. You need to eat anyway. You need to keep your strength up. She paused at the door. He's a good man, you know, in his own way. He keeps his word. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her, leaving me alone in this gilded cage. I walked to the windows, pressing my palm against the cool glass. Below, I could see Dominic standing in the driveway, his phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing as he spoke. Even from here, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the barely contained violence in his movements. What had I done? What had I agreed to? My phone buzzed in my pocket, a sound so normal it felt jarring. I pulled it out with shaking hands. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 12 text messages. I opened them against my better judgment. Emily, where are you? We need to talk. That man is dangerous. He's lying to you. I would never hurt you. Please come home, I love you. We can work this out. Answer your phone. You're making a huge mistake. The police are looking for you. I told them you've been unstable since your father died. This is kidnapping. He's holding you against your will. I'm trying to help you. Please, Emily, answer me. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. He was already building his narrative, already painting me as the unstable one, the crazy grieving daughter who couldn't accept her father's accidental death. By morning, he'd probably have a restraining order, a psychiatric hold, something to legally justify hunting me down. A knock at the door made me jump. It's me. Dominic's voice, muffled through the wood. I opened the door. He'd removed his suit jacket, his tie loosened, the top button of his shirt undone. Somehow the slight disarray made him more dangerous, more real. I could see the strong column of his throat, the hint of something, a tattoo beneath his collar. His eyes went immediately to my phone, still clutched in my white-knuckled grip. Marcus? I nodded, unable to speak. He held out his hand. May I? I should have said no. Should have kept that last connection to my old life, however toxic. Instead, I placed the phone in his palm, watching as he scrolled through the messages with an expression that grew darker with each word. He's building a case, Dominic said finally, his voice deceptively calm, trying to establish that you're mentally incompetent, that I've kidnapped you, that he's the concerned husband. He looked up at me, and the cold fury in his eyes made my breath catch. Do you want me to handle this tonight? Handle it how? But I knew. God help me. I knew exactly what he meant. I can have him picked up within the hour. Take him somewhere quiet. Make him admit what he did to your father, what he was planning to do to you. Get it all on record. His thumb traced the edge of my phone almost absently. Then I can make the problem disappear permanently, or I can turn him over to the authorities with enough evidence to put him away for 20 years. Your choice. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was real. This wasn't some thriller novel or crime drama. This man was offering to torture my husband, my ex-husband, for information, and possibly kill him, as casually as someone might offer to make coffee. My voice broke. I can't make that decision. Yes, you can. He stepped closer, and I could smell that sandalwood scent again, could feel the heat of his body. You're stronger than you think, Emily. Your father saw it. That's why he made me promise to protect you. He knew that when the time came, you'd do what needed to be done. Did you know? The question burst out before I could stop it. Did you know they were going to kill him? Pain flashed across his face, so quick I almost missed it. No. If I had, I would have stopped it. Your father was supposed to call me if he felt threatened. If anything seemed wrong. He never called. His jaw clenched. By the time I learned what happened, it was too late. The Zhao family had already cleaned up. The police had already ruled it accidental, and you were already married to the man who helped kill him. The world tilted. I stumbled backward, and Dominic caught me, his arms strong and steady as they wrapped around my waist. I should have pushed him away, should have maintained some distance, some boundary. Instead, I found myself leaning into his chest, my forehead pressed against his shoulder, breathing in his scent while my body shook with silent sobs. I've got you. He murmured into my hair, one hand stroking slow circles on my back. I've got you, and I'm not letting go. They won't touch you. I swear it on your father's grave. They won't ever touch you. I don't know how long we stood there, me falling apart while this dangerous stranger held me together. Eventually, my tears slowed, my breathing evened. I became aware of how perfectly I fit against him, how my head tucked just under his chin, how his heartbeat was steady and strong beneath my ear. I pulled back, wiping at my face with shaking hands. I'm sorry. I don't usually... Don't apologize. His hands lingered on my waist for a moment before dropping away, leaving me feeling strangely bereft. You've had the worst day of your life, and it's not over yet. He held up my phone. I'm keeping this. They can track it, use it to find you. I'll get you a new one tomorrow. Secure line, untraceable. Okay, I whispered, because what else could I say? He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. For what it's worth, Emily, I wish we'd met under different circumstances. Your father talked about you constantly. His brilliant daughter. The nurse who saved lives. The one good thing in his world. I looked forward to meeting you someday. Just not like this, I finished. Just not like this, he agreed. His hand rested on the doorknob. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start fighting back. Dominic? His name felt strange on my tongue, intimate and forbidden. He turned, one eyebrow raised in question. What did my father promise you in exchange for protecting me? A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. Nothing. He was my friend. That's what friends do. They protect each other's families. Even after they're gone. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him, leaving me alone with the weight of everything I'd lost and the terrifying uncertainty of what I'd gained. I walked to the bed, my legs finally giving out. I sank onto the mattress, and Rosa was right. It was impossibly soft, and stared up at the ceiling. Somewhere in this enormous house, Dominic was making calls, arranging whatever came next. Somewhere in the city, Marcus was spinning his lies, building his case. Somewhere the Zhao family was hunting me, and here I was, in a stranger's home, wearing a stranger's protection like armor I didn't know how to wield. My father's face flashed through my mind, the way he'd looked the last time I saw him, warning me about something I'd been too stubborn to hear. Had he known? Had he suspected Marcus all along? The tears came again, quieter this time, soaking into the expensive pillows. I cried for my father, for my shattered marriage, for the naive woman I'd been just this morning who thought signing papers was the worst thing she'd face today. Outside my window, night fell over the gardens, transforming them into shadows and silver light. And somewhere in the darkness, Dominic Caruso was planning his war. I just hoped I'd survive being caught in the crossfire. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, warm and golden, coaxing me from a sleep so deep it felt like drowning. For one blissful moment, I forgot everything. Forgot Marcus. Forgot the lawyer's office. Forgot the impossible choice I'd made. Then reality crashed down like a wave, and I bolted upright, my heart racing. The room around me was unfamiliar in daylight, elegant, expensive. A prison dressed in silk and marble. Someone had been in my room while I slept. The realization sent ice through my veins until I saw what they'd left. A tray on the bedside table with coffee, fresh fruit, and pastries that smelled of butter and sugar. Beside it, a neat stack of clothes. Jeans that looked like they'd actually fit. A soft cotton shirt in dove gray. Undergarments still in their packaging. I touched the fabric, marveling at the quality. Everything was exactly my size. Mr. Caruso is very particular about details, Rosa had said. The thought of him knowing these intimate measurements made heat crawl up my neck. The coffee was still hot. Whoever had brought it hadn't been gone long. I showered in the marble bathroom, standing under water pressure that felt like a massage, using products that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The scent of lavender and vanilla clung to my skin as I dried off with towels so plush they felt like clouds. For a few stolen minutes, I let myself pretend this was normal, that I belonged in this world of luxury and excess. The clothes fit perfectly. Of course they did. I found my way downstairs by following the scent of coffee and the low murmur of voices. The house looked different in daylight, less intimidating, more lived in. Fresh flowers in crystal vases. Photographs in silver frames showing places I didn't recognize. A home, not just a showpiece. The voices led me to a dining room where Dominic sat at the head of a long table, papers spread before him, his phone pressed to his ear. He'd changed from yesterday's suit into dark jeans and a white shirt, with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. The casual clothes should have made him less intimidating. They didn't. He looked up as I entered, his eyes traveling over me with an assessment that felt physical. Something flickered in his expression. Approval? Satisfaction. Before he returned his attention to his call. I don't care what excuses he's making. I want eyes on him 24/7. If he so much as jaywalks, I want to know about it. A pause. Good. And the other matter? Another pause. This one longer. His jaw tightened. Then we moved to plan B, tonight. He ended the call, setting the phone down with careful precision. Good morning. You slept well? I slept, I said, which wasn't the same thing. I dreamed of my father, of Marcus's hands around my throat, of blue eyes watching me from shadows. What's plan B? Direct. A smile ghosted across his lips. I like that. Sit, eat. We have a lot to discuss. I took a seat several chairs down from him, maintaining distance. He noticed, his expression darkening almost imperceptibly, but said nothing. Rosa appeared with more coffee, filling my cup with a warm smile before disappearing again. The Zhao family made their move last night, Dominic said, pushing a tablet across the table toward me. Your apartment was broken into around 3 a.m. They made it look like a robbery, but they were searching for something specific. I pulled the tablet closer, my stomach churning as I looked at the security footage. My apartment, my small, cramped studio that I'd turned into a home, destroyed. Drawers pulled out, mattress slashed, everything I owned scattered across the floor like garbage. The police were called by a neighbor, he continued. Marcus showed up 20 minutes later, played the concerned husband, told them you'd been acting erratically since your father's death, that he was worried about your safety. He filed a missing persons report. So now I'm officially missing. My voice sounded hollow. Officially, you never came home from the lawyer's office yesterday. Your phone's last location was the parking garage, which I've taken care of. Marcus is telling everyone I kidnapped you, that you're being held against your will by dangerous criminals. I set down my coffee cup, my hands shaking too badly to hold it. Maybe he's right. Maybe I am. Dominic stood, moving around the table with predatory grace. He pulled out the chair next to mine, sitting close enough that I could feel the heat of him, smell that intoxicating sandalwood scent. Are you being held against your will, Emily? I don't know, I whispered honestly. Am I allowed to leave? Right now? This minute? He leaned back, spreading his hands. Yes. I'll have someone drive you anywhere you want to go. Police station, friend's house, airport, your choice. He paused, letting that sink in. But the moment you leave my protection, the Zhao family will find you. Marcus will have you declared incompetent and committed to psychiatric care. He's already started the paperwork, and within 48 hours, you'll either be dead or wishing you were. That's not really a choice. No, he agreed quietly. It's not, but it's the truth. And I won't lie to you. Not about this. His hand found mine on the table, his fingers warm and steady over my trembling ones. Your father made me promise 2 things. First, to protect you no matter what. Second, to always be honest with you, even when the truth was ugly, especially then. I looked down at our joined hands, his so much larger than mine, marked with scars I hadn't noticed yesterday, that silver ring catching the morning light. What was he to you? Really? Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing absent patterns on my knuckles. He saved my life when I was 17. I'd been stupid, arrogant, thought I could handle a situation I had no business being in. The Zhao family had me cornered in an alley, 3 against 1, and they weren't planning on letting me walk away. His voice went distant, remembering. Your father came out of nowhere, this middle-aged shopkeeper with a tire iron, and evened the odds. We got out together. Why would he do that? For a stranger? He said everyone deserves a chance to be better than their worst moment. Dominic's smile was sad, tinged with grief. After that, we were friends. Real friends, not just business associates. He was the closest thing to a father I had after mine died, so when he asked me to look after you, his grip on my hand tightened. It wasn't just a promise. It was an honor. Tears burned in my eyes, but I blinked them back. I'd cried enough. Tell me what happens now. All of it. He released my hand, standing to pace the length of the windows. The morning light turned his dark hair almost blue-black, highlighted the strong lines of his face. Marcus has made a critical error. In his rush to establish you as mentally unstable, he's drawn attention to himself. The police are asking questions about your father's death, about the timing of your divorce, about his sudden financial improvements. My lawyers have filed motions to freeze all marital assets pending investigation of fraud and forgery. He'll fight that. Of course he will. Which is why tonight we're having a conversation with him. Face to face, recorded. Getting him to admit everything, the affair, the forgery, his role in your father's death, his deal with the Zhao family. My blood turned cold. You're going to torture him. No. Dominic turned to face me, his expression hard as stone. I'm going to give him a choice. Confess everything and accept witness protection in exchange for testifying against the Zhao family, or refuse and face the consequences of his actions without the shield of law protecting him. What he chooses determines what happens next. And if he refuses, then he made his choice. No emotion in his voice, just cold certainty. The Zhao family doesn't tolerate loose ends, and Marcus has become a liability. If I don't handle him, they will, at least my way. He has options. I stood, wrapping my arms around myself. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm. This is insane. I should go to the police myself, tell them everything. And say what? Dominic's voice sharpened. That your husband forged your signature? He'll say you gave permission, that your father was murdered. The case is closed. Accident. Pure and simple. That the Zhao family is after you? Based on what evidence? The word of a known criminal? He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. You think the system will protect you, Emily? The same system that let your father die and called it an accident? The same system that would have let Marcus steal everything while you signed it away? At least it's legal. Legal. He laughed, the sound bitter. Your husband legally murdered your father. The Zhao family legally runs half the businesses in Chinatown through shell companies and intimidation. Marcus will legally have you committed and legally take everything you have left. But yes, it's all perfectly legal. I wanted to argue, to defend a system I'd believed in my whole life, but the words wouldn't come, because he was right. Everything that had happened to me, to my father, had been technically legal. We'd been destroyed by paperwork and loopholes, and people who knew how to game the system. I don't want to become like them, I whispered. Like you. Someone who solves problems with violence and threats. Dominic's expression softened. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my face in his hands. His palms were warm against my cheeks, his touch gentle despite the violence I knew those hands were capable of. You won't, he said quietly. Because you're asking the question, because you're afraid of crossing that line. That's what separates people like you from people like me. You still believe in the light. I stopped believing in it a long time ago. His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. But I believe in you. Your father believed in you. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you survive this with your soul intact, even if mine doesn't. Why? The question came out broken. Why does it matter to you? Something flickered in his eyes, something raw and almost painful. Because when I look at you, I see what I could have been if someone had protected me the way your father protected you. I see goodness and strength, and everything this world tries to break in people, and I'll be damned if I let them break you too. His face was so close to mine. I could count the individual shades of blue in his eyes, could see the faint stubble along his jaw, could feel his breath warm against my lips. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I couldn't tell if it was fear or something far more dangerous. The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Then his phone rang, shattering it like glass. Dominic stepped back, his hands dropping away as he answered. What is it? His expression darkened as he listened. When? How many? A pause. No, absolutely not. Tell them if they come within a mile of this property, it's an act of war. I don't care what they... He stopped, his jaw clenching. Put him on. He pressed a button, and suddenly a voice filled the room through the phone's speaker. Male, older, with an accent that made each word sound like a threat. Dominic. It's been too long. Mr. Zhao. Dominic's voice had gone cold, emotionless. To what do I owe this unexpected call? You know why I'm calling. You have something that belongs to me. I have a woman under my protection. If you're claiming ownership of people, we have a much bigger problem than a business dispute. A low chuckle. Still the same righteous boy. Your father would be disappointed. David Chen's daughter is collateral for debts unpaid. Her husband borrowed heavily from us, used her father's assets as guarantee. Now the father is dead, the assets are tied up, and we need insurance that will be repaid. Marcus Chen acted without authority. Emily inherited nothing. Her father's estate was already depleted by your family's protection fees and Marcus's embezzlement. You have no legal claim. Legal. The word dripped with contempt. Since when do we deal in legal, Dominic? The girl is leverage. Return her. We settle Marcus's debt another way. Keep her, and we have a problem. A big problem. Dominic's free hand clenched into a fist. She's under my protection. That means she's untouchable. You know the rules. Rules change, especially for someone who spent the last 6 months weakening, losing territory, making enemies. How many of your allies have left you, Dominic? How many will stand with you if this turns into open war? Ice flooded my veins. I'd been so focused on my own situation that I hadn't considered the bigger picture. Dominic was protecting me, but at what cost? How much was he risking by keeping me here? My affairs are my business, Dominic said, but I heard the edge in his voice. Emily stays with me. If you want war, I'll give you one. But remember, I know where all your bodies are buried. Literally. Silence on the other end. Then, you have 24 hours to reconsider. After that, I can't guarantee her safety. Or yours. Choose wisely, boy. The line went dead. Dominic stood motionless, staring at the phone in his hand. The muscle in his jaw jumped, the only sign of the fury I could feel radiating off him in waves. You're losing territory because of me, I said quietly. That's not your concern. It is if you're going to war over me. My voice rose. You said I could leave, that I had a choice, so let me make it. I'll go. I'll figure something out. You don't have to. He moved so fast I didn't have time to react. One moment he was across the room. The next his hands were gripping my shoulders, his face inches from mine. You're not going anywhere, he said, his voice deadly quiet. You think I'd let you walk into their hands? Watch you disappear or worse, because I couldn't protect one person that mattered. His fingers tightened, not painfully, but desperately. I failed your father. I won't fail you. But your business... Fuck my business! The words exploded from him, raw and fierce. Empires rise and fall. Territory is won and lost. But once you're gone forever. And I have enough ghosts haunting me. I don't need another one. We stood frozen, his words hanging in the air between us. His chest heaved with each breath, his eyes blazing with something I couldn't name. Couldn't let myself name. 24 hours, I whispered. What happens in 24 hours? His expression hardened, the vulnerability shuddering behind cold determination. We move up the timeline. Marcus talks tonight, and we get everything we need to bury the Zhao family before they can strike. We turn this from a defensive position into an offensive one. And if it doesn't work? His hands slid from my shoulders down my arms, his touch leaving fire in its wake. Then we fight, and we win. Because losing isn't an option. He stepped back, that professional mask sliding into place. Rosa will stay with you today. Don't leave the property. There are guards posted, but the Zhao family has resources. If anything feels wrong, you run to the panic room. Rosa knows where it is. Where are you going? To prepare for tonight. To make sure when Marcus Chen walks into that room, he walks out with either a deal or in a body bag. He paused at the door, looking back at me with an expression that made my heart stutter. And Emily, when this is over, when you're safe and the Zhao family is buried, you'll have a real choice. Stay or go. But until then, you're mine to protect. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. It didn't. And that scared me more than anything else. The hours crawled by like wounded animals. Rosa tried to distract me with lunch, with a tour of the gardens, with mindless conversation about flowers and weather, and anything but the danger circling closer with each passing minute. But I couldn't focus on any of it. My mind kept returning to Dominic's words. Body bag. Was I really willing to let Marcus die? The man who'd shared my bed for 7 years, who'd promised to love me forever, who'd held my hand at my father's funeral while secretly celebrating his murder? Yes, whispered something dark inside me. Yes, I was. The realization should have horrified me. Instead, it felt like clarity. Evening fell across the estate like a curtain, turning the gardens into shadowed mazes. I stood at my bedroom window, watching lights flicker on throughout the property. Security lights, I realized, illuminating every corner, every approach. Dominic was preparing for war. A knock at my door made me jump. "It's Rosa, dear. Mr. Caruso asked me to bring you something." I opened the door to find her holding a garment bag and a small box. Her expression was troubled, maternal concern etched into the lines around her eyes. "He wants you downstairs in an hour," she said softly, laying the bag across my bed. "For the meeting with your husband. He wants me there?" My voice came out strangled. "Why would he?" "Because Marcus needs to see what he's lost. Needs to understand the consequences of his choices." Rosa opened the box, revealing a sleek black phone. "Your new cell. Completely secure. Mr. Caruso's number is already programmed. If anything happens tonight, anything at all, you call him." She left me alone with the garment bag. I unzipped it with shaking hands, revealing a dress that made my breath catch. Deep emerald silk that shimmered in the lamplight, elegant and expensive, and nothing like anything I'd ever owned. It was a statement, a costume, armor disguised as beauty. I showered again, my movements mechanical, put on the dress. It fit like it had been tailored for my body, hugging curves I usually hid beneath scrubs and oversized sweaters. The woman staring back at me from the mirror was a stranger, polished, dangerous, someone who belonged in Dominic's world. I hated how much I liked her. Rosa returned to do my hair, pulling it back into an elegant twist that exposed the vulnerable column of my throat. "You look beautiful," she murmured, her hands gentle on my shoulders, like a queen going into battle. "I don't feel like a queen. I feel like bait. Sometimes they're the same thing." She met my eyes in the mirror. "Mr. Caruso has never brought a woman here before, never asked me to prepare a room, never changed his entire operation for someone's safety. You matter to him, more than he'll probably admit. I'm a promise he made to my father, an obligation. If that's what you need to tell yourself." Her smile was sad and knowing. "But I've known him since he was 18 years old. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're something precious and terrifying all at once." Before I could respond, another knock. One of Dominic's men, the bodyguard from yesterday, tall and stone-faced. "It's time, ma'am." The walk downstairs felt like a descent into hell. My heels clicked against marble floors, each step echoing in the cavernous space. Voices drifted from a room at the end of the hallway, low, tense, angry. The bodyguard opened the door, and I stepped into what looked like a study. Leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk of dark wood. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair with zip ties, was Marcus. He looked terrible. His expensive suit was rumpled, his face bruised, his left eye swollen nearly shut. Blood crusted his upper lip. When he saw me, something between relief and terror crossed his face. "Emily. Thank God. These lunatics kidnapped me. They've been—" "Shut up." Dominic's voice cut through Marcus's words like a blade. He stood in the shadows near the window, perfectly still, perfectly controlled. But I could feel the violence radiating off him like heat. "She's not here to rescue you. She's here to watch you tell the truth for once in your miserable life." That's when I noticed the camera on a tripod, its red light blinking, recording everything. Marcus's eyes darted between us, calculations running behind his gaze even now. "Emily, sweetheart, whatever they've told you is a lie. I love you. We can still fix this. Did you forge my signature on the deed to our apartment?" My voice came out stronger than I felt, cold and clear. "What? No, I would never—" "Wrong answer." Dominic moved with terrifying speed, grabbing a handful of Marcus's hair and yanking his head back. "Let's try this again. Did you forge Emily's signature on legal documents transferring ownership of marital assets to your mistress?" "You can't do this. This is illegal. I'll have you arrested for—" A slap echoed through the room. Not from Dominic, from me. My palm stung where it had connected with Marcus's cheek, and I stared at my own hand in shock. I'd never hit anyone in my life. It felt good. Too good. Answer the question, I said quietly. Marcus's eyes widened, seeing something in my expression that made him go pale beneath his bruises. Yes, I forged your signature, but you have to understand, Sophia and I were building a future together. And you were always so focused on work, on your father, my father. I stepped closer, and Dominic moved with me, a shadow at my back. Tell me about my father's accident. It was an accident. His brakes failed. Marcus. Dominic's hand settled on my shoulder, steady and grounding. We have the mechanic who sabotaged David Chen's car. We have bank records showing a payment from your account to a Zhao family associate 3 days before the accident. We have everything. The only question is whether you confirm it, or whether we let the Zhao family know you've become a liability who might talk. Understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. Understanding and pure animal terror. They'll kill me. Probably. Dominic's tone was conversational. They don't like loose ends. And you, Marcus, are the loosest end imaginable. You borrowed money you couldn't repay. You promised them access to Emily's inheritance. You helped arrange a murder that's now under investigation. You're a walking liability. Unless you give us everything, I added, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Every detail. Every name. Every transaction. You testify against the Zhao family. And Dominic puts you in witness protection somewhere they'll never find you. Marcus laughed, a broken, desperate sound. Witness protection? You think the Zhao family can't reach me there? You think anywhere is safe? Safer than here, Dominic said. Safer than what happens if you refuse to cooperate. Because if you don't give us what we need, I hand you over to them personally. Tell them you are planning to turn state's evidence. Let them handle you their way. That's murder. Marcus struggled against his restraints. Emily, you can't let him do this. I'm your husband. We took vows. You broke those vows when you fucked your paralegal, I said, the words tasting like acid. You shattered them when you helped murder my father for insurance money. There's nothing left between us but choices, Marcus. Choose wisely. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe the exhausted, trusting woman he'd married had died in that lawyer's office yesterday, and someone harder had been born in her place. If I talk, he said slowly, you guarantee my safety? Get me out of the city? Away from the Zhao family? You have my word, Dominic said. And unlike you, I keep my promises. What followed was a confession that made my stomach turn. Marcus talked for over an hour, the camera recording every word. He detailed how the Zhao family had approached him 2 years ago, how they'd offered to solve his gambling debts in exchange for access to my father's shipping business, how my father had refused to cooperate, making him a liability, how Marcus had provided the schedule, the route, the opportunity for the mechanic to tamper with the brakes. He'd watched my father die and held me while I cried, all while the insurance money was already being divided. The apartment, the savings, even my car, all transferred to Sophia's name over months of careful fraud. He'd planned to have me declared incompetent after the divorce, institutionalized, while he and Sophia lived off everything we'd built together. The Zhao family's plan for me was simpler. Ransom me back to Marcus for the insurance money, then make me disappear permanently. No witnesses, no loose ends. By the time Marcus finished talking, I felt numb, hollowed out. I'd known he'd betrayed me, but hearing the scope of it, the casual cruelty, the way he'd calculated my worth in dollars and convenience, it broke something in me that I didn't know could break. Dominic stopped the recording, removed the memory card with careful precision. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, my people will move you to a secure location. You'll remain there until the Zhao family trial concludes. After that, you're free to disappear. What about Sophia? Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. What about her? Dominic's tone was ice. She's an accomplice to fraud and accessory to murder. She'll be arrested along with everyone else. She didn't know about David. I never told her. I don't care. Dominic moved toward the door, his hand finding the small of my back. Emily, let's go. I followed him into the hallway, my legs mechanical, my mind struggling to process everything I'd heard. Behind us, I could hear Marcus calling my name, pleading, making promises he'd never keep. The door closed, cutting off his voice. Dominic guided me to his study, a different room, warmer, with a fireplace crackling and casting golden light across leather furniture. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter, pressing one into my shaking hands. "Drink," he commanded gently. I did. The whiskey burned down my throat, settling like fire in my stomach. I drained the glass in 3 swallows, welcoming the heat, the distraction from the cold numbness spreading through my chest. "You did well," Dominic said, taking the empty glass and setting it aside. "Better than well. You were magnificent." "I feel sick." I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold the pieces together. 7 years. 7 years of my life with a man who was planning to kill me. He's not a man. He's a coward who preys on people who trust him. Dominic's hands settled on my shoulders, turning me to face him. "But he can't hurt you anymore. None of them can. Can't they?" I looked up at him. This beautiful, dangerous stranger who'd become my entire world in less than 48 hours. The Zhao family still wants me. They still have 24 hours on their ultimatum. Marcus talking doesn't change that. "No," he admitted, "but it gives us ammunition. By morning, copies of that confession will be in the hands of the FBI, the district attorney, and every news outlet in the city. The Zhao family will be too busy covering their own asses to come after you." "And if they do anyway," his expression hardened, his hands tightening on my shoulders. "Then I keep my promise to your father. I protect you, no matter what it costs, even if it costs you everything, especially then." His thumb traced the line of my jaw, tilting my face up to his. "Don't you understand yet, Emily? You're not just a promise. You're not just an obligation." His voice dropped to barely more than a whisper. "You're the first thing in 10 years that's made me feel like I'm worth saving." My breath caught. His face was so close, his eyes burning with intensity that made my knees weak. I could smell whiskey and sandalwood, could feel the heat of his body, could see the war raging behind his eyes. Wanting me, protecting me, knowing he shouldn't have both. "Dominic." I didn't know what I was asking for. Didn't know if I was begging him to stop or pleading with him to continue. He made the choice for both of us. His lips crashed against mine with a desperation that stole my breath. Not gentle, not careful, raw and hungry, and everything I didn't know I needed. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't tell where I ended. And he began. My hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. And he groaned, a sound that vibrated through my entire body. His arms wrapped around my waist, lifting me easily, and suddenly I was pressed against the bookshelf, surrounded by him, drowning in sensations I'd never experienced. This wasn't like kissing Marcus. This was fire and need, and 2 broken people trying to find something whole in each other. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "I shouldn't have done that," he murmured. "No," I agreed, my fingers still twisted in his shirt. "You shouldn't have. Tell me to stop. I can't." His laugh was breathless, pained. "You're supposed to be the one who stays good, remember? The light in all this darkness. Maybe I don't want to be light anymore." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Maybe I'm tired of being the victim, the good girl, the one who plays by rules that don't protect me. Maybe I want to be someone who fights back. "Emily. He killed my father, Dominic. He was going to steal everything and have me locked away like I was nothing, like I didn't matter." Tears burned down my cheeks, but my voice stayed steady. "And you know what the worst part is? I would have let him. I would have signed those papers and smiled and thanked him for making it easy because I was too tired and too broken to fight." His hands cupped my face, thumbs wiping away tears with infinite gentleness. "But you didn't. You're here. You're fighting because you made me." I covered his hands with mine. "You saved me when I couldn't save myself. So don't tell me you're not worth saving. Don't tell me this is wrong when it's the first thing that's felt right in months." He kissed me again. Slower this time, thorough and devastating. When he pulled away, his eyes were dark with want, and something deeper, something that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. "When this is over," he said quietly, "when you're safe and the Zhao family is buried, and you have time to think clearly, ask me again. Ask me if this is what you really want. And if I do, His smile was sad and beautiful. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be worthy of you. A phone buzzed, his vibrating against the desk. He released me reluctantly, answering with a curtness that told me something was wrong. Talk. His expression darkened as he listened. How many? When? A pause. No, absolutely not. Hold position. I'm on my way. He ended the call, his jaw clenched so tight I could see muscles jumping. The Zhao family didn't wait 24 hours. They're moving on the property. Now. Fear iced through my veins. How many? Enough. He was already moving, pulling a gun from a desk drawer with practiced ease. Rosa's getting you to the panic room. You stay there no matter what you hear. Understood? Dominic. No arguments, Emily. Not about this. He gripped my shoulders, his eyes blazing. I will handle this. I will protect you. But I need to know you're safe so I can do what needs to be done without worrying about you being caught in the crossfire. Rosa burst through the door, her face pale. Mr. Caruso, they've breached the outer perimeter. Go! He pushed me toward her. Now, Rosa grabbed my hand, pulling me from the study. Behind us, I heard Dominic shouting orders into his phone, heard the sound of running feet, heard the distant crack of gunfire. The war had begun, and I was the prize they were fighting over. The panic room was deep in the basement, a reinforced steel box hidden behind a wine cellar that looked like something from a spy movie. Rosa's hands shook as she pressed her palm against a biometric scanner, the heavy door hissing open to reveal a space about the size of my old studio apartment. Banks of monitors lined one wall, showing security feeds from every angle of the property. Supplies stacked neatly in the corner. Water, food, medical kit, weapons. Stay here, Rosa commanded, pushing me inside. Don't open this door for anyone but Mr. Caruso. The door locks from the inside. No one can get in without the code. You're not staying with me? Her smile was fierce and maternal all at once. I've been with the Caruso family for 20 years, dear. I know how to handle a gun better than most of his men. Now lock this door and don't be a hero. She was gone before I could protest, the door sealing shut with a sound like a vault closing. The sudden silence was deafening, broken only by my ragged breathing and the hum of electronics. I stumbled to the monitors, my hands gripping the edge of the desk as I watched the nightmare unfold. The Zhao family had brought an army. Black SUVs poured through the shattered front gate, men in tactical gear spreading across the property like locusts. Gunfire lit up the night, muzzle flashes like deadly fireflies. Dominic's guards fired from defensive positions, but they were outnumbered 3-1. I found Dominic on one of the feeds, a camera covering the front entrance. He moved with lethal grace, his gun barking orders of death as men fell before him. But there were too many. For every one he dropped, 2 more appeared. My phone, the secure one Rosa had given me, vibrated in my pocket. Dominic's name flashed on the screen. Emily. His voice was strained, breathless. Gunfire crackled in the background. Are you in the panic room? Yes. Dominic, there are too many of them. I know. Listen to me carefully. There's an emergency exit in the back corner of the room, behind the shelving unit. It leads to a tunnel that comes out a 1/4 mile from the property near the highway. Keys to a car are in the exit lockbox. Code is your father's birthday. I'm not leaving you. You are. His tone left no room for argument. This is a distraction, Emily. They're hitting us hard here to draw our forces while a smaller team circles around to grab you. They know about the panic room. Someone talked. Anger and betrayal laced his words. You have maybe 10 minutes before they breach it. You run. You get to the car. You drive to the address I'm texting you. My people will meet you there. What about you? A pause. More gunfire. A grunt of pain that made my heart stop. I'm buying you time. Now go. The line went dead. On the monitors, I watched him take a bullet to the shoulder, saw him spin and drop the shooter without hesitation. Blood bloomed across his white shirt, dark and spreading. He kept fighting. For me. He was bleeding and fighting and maybe dying for me. I wanted to scream, to run to him, to do something other than hide like a coward. But Rosa's words echoed in my head. Don't be a hero. and Dominic's, "I need to know you're safe so I can do what needs to be done." My hands shook as I moved the shelving unit. Surprisingly light, designed to move easily in emergency. The exit door was exactly where he'd said, a heavy steel hatch with a digital keypad. My father's birthday, June 15th, 06:15. The lock clicked open. I looked back at the monitors one last time. Dominic had fallen back to the main house, blood trailing behind him. 3 of his men formed a defensive line at his back. The Zhao forces were closing in. Then I saw them. 4 men peeling off from the main assault, moving toward the side of the house, toward the basement entrance, toward me. I grabbed the emergency pack near the exit, slung it over my shoulder, and plunged into the tunnel. Darkness swallowed me whole. Emergency lighting flickered on as I ran, dim bulbs casting weak yellow light every 20 feet. The tunnel was narrow, concrete walls pressing in from both sides, the air thick and stale. My heels were impossible to run in, so I kicked them off, the cold floor biting into my bare feet as I sprinted. Behind me, I heard it, the muffled boom of an explosion. They'd breached the panic room. I ran faster, my lungs burning, the emergency pack bouncing against my back. The tunnel seemed endless, stretching into infinity. My phone vibrated again, a text from Dominic. "Run faster." 2 words that sent pure terror through my veins. The tunnel ended at another hatch. This one manual. I threw my weight against the release wheel, muscles screaming as I forced it to turn. The hatch swung open onto a moonlit night, fresh air rushing in to fill my starved lungs. I climbed out into a small clearing surrounded by trees. True to Dominic's word, a black sedan sat hidden beneath camouflage netting, keys in the lockbox mounted to the driver's door. Code 0615. The locks popped. I threw myself into the driver's seat, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life and I floored it, tires spinning on dirt before finding purchase. The car shot forward, crashing through the underbrush onto a narrow access road. In the rearview mirror, I could see the glow of fires from Dominic's estate, hear the distant pop of gunfire, see my entire world burning. I drove like a woman possessed, following the GPS coordinates Dominic had sent. They led me deeper into the city, to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Industrial buildings and warehouses, most abandoned. The address was a nondescript 3-story structure with barred windows and a reinforced door. I barely had the car in park before the door opened. A woman stepped out, late 40s, beautiful in a severe way, with iron gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore tactical gear and carried a pistol with casual familiarity. "Emily Chen?" Her voice was clipped, professional. "Yes, Dominic sent me. Inside, now." She hustled me through the door, into what looked like a command center. Banks of computers, weapons lockers, maps covering the walls. A dozen people worked with focused intensity, coordinating something I didn't understand. "Status?" The woman barked to someone at a computer. "Caruso's holding the main house. Casualties on both sides. Zhao family forces are pulling back. FBI just rolled up with full tactical." Relief nearly drove me to my knees. "He's alive?" "For now." The woman turned to me, her expression softening slightly. "I'm Catherine Reeves. I run security operations for the Caruso organization. Dominic called me 20 minutes ago. Told me you'd be coming. You're safe here. I need to go back. He's wounded. He needs you alive and hidden." Catherine's hand on my shoulder was firm. "That's what keeps him fighting, knowing you made it out." A phone rang, not mine, one of the secure lines on the desk. Catherine answered, listened, then handed it to me. "It's him." I grabbed the phone so fast I nearly dropped it. "Dominic? You made it." His voice was weak, pained, but alive, so blessedly alive. "Good girl." "You're hurt. How bad?" "I've had worse." A lie? I could hear it in the tightness of his voice. "The FBI raided based on Marcus's confession. Perfect timing. The Zhao family's entire leadership is in custody. It's over, Emily. You're safe." Tears streamed down my face. "What about you?" "Shoulder wound. I'll live." A pause. "I need to stay here, handle the FBI, make sure everything's locked down. Catherine will keep you secure until I can come get you. Probably a few days." "Days?" My voice broke. "I know. I know, sweetheart. But I need to make sure every threat is neutralized before I bring you back into my world. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. I almost lost you tonight. I'm not risking that again. Dominic? Rest. Heal. Let me handle this. And Emily? He waited until I made a sound of acknowledgement. When I come for you, I'm not letting you go again. Ever. Understand? Yes, I whispered. The line went dead. 3 days felt like 3 years. Catherine kept me in the safe house, comfortable but confined. I watched the news obsessively. The Zhao family's arrest was the top story, a sprawling RICO case that promised to dismantle decades of organized crime. Marcus's confession played on every channel. His face splashed across screens as the star witness who'd brought down an empire. Sophia had been arrested trying to flee the country. The apartment, the car, all the assets Marcus had stolen, frozen pending legal proceedings. The life he'd built on my father's grave was crumbling to dust. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. On the 4th day, Catherine came to me with a knowing smile. He's here. My heart stopped, then raced. I followed her down the stairs to the main floor, where Dominic stood talking to one of the security team. His left arm was in a sling, his face bruised, bandages visible beneath his shirt. But he was alive, standing, smiling when he saw me. I didn't remember crossing the room. Suddenly I was in his arms, carefully, mindful of his injuries, and he was holding me like I was something precious and irreplaceable. Hey, he murmured into my hair. Miss me. I laughed through tears. You got shot. You could have died. But I didn't. He pulled back enough to cut my face with his good hand, because I had something to live for, someone to protect, someone who gave me a reason to be better than the darkness I've lived in for so long. Dominic, let me finish. His thumb traced my cheekbone with infinite tenderness. I told you to ask me again when this was over, when you had time to think clearly, away from the danger and fear, so I'm asking now. Emily Chen, do you want this? Do you want me? All of me. The good and bad and ugly parts. I looked into those impossible blue eyes and saw my future. Not the safe, predictable future I'd planned with Marcus. Something wilder, more dangerous, more real. A life lived in shades of gray instead of black and white. A love built on protection and passion, and the kind of loyalty most people only read about. Yes, I said simply. I want you. I choose you. His kiss was gentle this time, reverent. A promise sealed with touch. When we broke apart, he was smiling. A real smile that transformed his whole face, making him look younger, lighter. Good. Because I already put an offer on a house for us. Better security than the estate, but just as beautiful. I figured you'd want something that's ours, not just mine. He paused, suddenly uncertain. Unless you want your own place? I don't want to assume... Our place, I interrupted, laughing at the absurdity of a Mafia boss suddenly nervous about moving too fast. I want our place. And your job? The hospital? I'd thought about this during the long days of isolation. I want to go back, eventually, but maybe somewhere new. A fresh start where people don't know me as Marcus Chen's unstable ex-wife. I know people at Cedars-Sinai, best trauma center in the state. I can make a call. No. I pressed my finger to his lips, silencing him. No more making calls or pulling strings or fixing things for me. I want to apply on my own merit. Build something that's mine, that I earned. Can you understand that? His expression softened with respect, and something deeper. Pride. Yeah, I can understand that. But if anyone gives you trouble, then I'll handle it myself. And if I can't, then you can go all protective crime lord on them. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. Fair enough. Though you have to let me buy you a car. Something safe with bulletproof glass and Dominic. What? I'm just being practical. I shook my head, but I was smiling. This was my life now. Loving a man who thought bulletproof cars were practical gifts, who'd gone to war for me without hesitation, who looked at me like I was his entire world. We left the safe house together, his good arm wrapped around my waist, Catherine watching us with approval. The car waiting outside was sleek and black and probably armored, but I didn't ask. Some battles weren't worth fighting. As we drove through the city toward whatever came next, Dominic's hand found mine, fingers lacing together like they belonged that way. "Your father would be proud of you," he said quietly. "The way you faced Marcus, the way you survived these past days. You're stronger than anyone gives you credit for." I had a good teacher. I squeezed his hand. He taught me that sometimes the only way to survive is to fight back. To trust the people who prove they'll protect you, even when the whole world says you shouldn't. "Especially then," Dominic agreed. We pulled up to a beautiful house I'd never seen. Modern architecture blending with classic elegance, surrounded by high walls and tasteful security measures. Home. Our home. "There's something else," Dominic said as we sat in the driveway. "Marcus's assets, everything he stole from you, it's being returned. The apartment's in your name again, the savings account, all of it. Plus your father's life insurance money that the Zhao family never got their hands on. You're financially independent, Emily. You don't need me for security or protection or money. I know." I turned to face him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that without need I wouldn't stay. "I don't need you, Dominic. I choose you. There's a difference." "Thank God," he breathed, pulling me into another kiss that promised forever. 6 months later, I stood in the trauma bay at Cedars-Sinai, my hands steady as I sutured a gunshot wound. The patient would live. I'd made sure of that, because saving lives was what I did, who I was, regardless of whose bed I shared or what world I'd become part of. My phone buzzed during my break, a text from Dominic. "Dinner tonight? I'm cooking." I smiled, typing back, "Your cooking might kill me faster than the Zhao family. Rude. I've been practicing. I'll bring takeout as backup. I love you too." The words still made my heart skip, even after 6 months of hearing them. I love you. 3 words from a man who'd never said them to anyone before me, who treated them like sacred vows. My shift ended at 8. I changed out of scrubs, exhaustion pulling at my bones in the familiar way that meant I'd worked hard and well. The attending had complimented my technique today, mentioned recommendations for a surgery fellowship. I was building something here, a career, a reputation, a life that was entirely mine. Dominic's car waited in the parking garage. The driver, Thomas, a former Marine who'd become almost a friend, holding the door. "Evening, Dr. Chen," he said, with a slight smile. He called me that now, with genuine respect. "Evening, Thomas. How's he doing today?" "Restless. Drove the contractors crazy over paint colors for the nursery." I laughed, my hand unconsciously moving to the small swell of my stomach, hidden beneath my jacket. 3 months along, a surprise neither of us had planned, but both of us wanted, with fierce intensity. The house blazed with light when we arrived, warm and welcoming. Dominic met me at the door, pulling me into his arms despite the very real smell of something burning from the kitchen. "I tried," he said sheepishly. "I really did. I brought Thai food. You're a goddess." We ate on the couch, my feet in his lap while he rubbed away the ache of a 12-hour shift. The news played quietly in the background. The Zhao family trial had concluded yesterday. Life sentences for everyone involved. Justice, served cold and final. Marcus was somewhere in witness protection, living under a new name in a place I'd never know. Sometimes I wondered if he thought about me, about everything he'd lost. Mostly I didn't think about him at all. "Your father's birthday is next week," Dominic said quietly. "I thought we could visit his grave, bring flowers, tell him about the baby." Tears pricked my eyes, the good kind, born of gratitude and love. He would have liked you, eventually, after he got done threatening you for corrupting his daughter. "I did corrupt you." His hand moved to my stomach, protective and possessive, turned a good girl into a crime lord's wife. "Not wife yet," I reminded him. "You still haven't actually proposed, haven't I?" He shifted, pulling a small box from his pocket with a grin that told me he'd been waiting for this moment. Emily Chen, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, and failing spectacularly at cooking for you? The ring was perfect, a deep green emerald surrounded by diamonds, elegant and unique, and nothing I would have chosen for myself, which somehow made it perfect. Yes, I whispered through tears. Yes to all of it. He slipped the ring onto my finger, then kissed me with the kind of tenderness that still made my knees weak. Outside, rain began to fall, drumming softly against the windows. Inside, we were warm and safe and together. I'd lost so much. My father, my innocence, my naive faith that the world was fair and just. But I'd gained something too, strength I didn't know I possessed, a love I never expected to find, and the understanding that sometimes salvation comes from the most unlikely places, in the arms of a beautiful monster who'd taught me that survival sometimes means embracing the darkness and learning to find light there anyway.